Okay, this is the description of the respiration experiment. This is the main instrument that we're going to be assessing. It's a pneumatachograph or pneumatac. This pneumatac has two, so inside is a fine gauze that we can't see, which is in between these two flanges. On either side is a tube, and the tube goes into the spirometer pod. Inside the spirometer pod is the pressure transducers and the conditioning circuitry to generate a voltage proportional to the pressure difference across the gauze and the pneumatac. The cable comes across to the data acquisition system. The one we're using is called Paralab. It's made by a company called AD Instruments. It's the Paralab T26T, which is a teaching system. So we plug it into input 1 here. Out of the back of the Paralab, we have obviously a power cable and a USB cable, which comes across to the PC. On the PC, you'll open up LabChart, which is the software used to drive the Paralab device. There are instructions in the manual about how to set up the channels, but you'll go into Setup, Channel Settings. It's already been set up for us, and here we have one channel sampling at 1,000 samples per second at 1 kilohertz. The range is 2 volts, and just make sure that the input settings column says spirometer pod. And it has units of volts raw data input. So because the units are in volts, but we are measuring a pressure or a flow actually, what we want to do is find a conversion or calibration which converts these volts that we measure into flow in liters per second. So when you do the recording, you'll press start in the top right hand corner, and we should start to see from the right hand side the pressure or flow. I keep saying pressure, it's a flow waveform come across the screen. So if I come over here and use the syringe, we have a 3 litre syringe, so this is exactly 3 litres of volume inside here. When I draw it out and push it back in, you see the waveform change on the screen. I'll use the auto scale function, which is here, the 2 green arrows, and that will rescale the signal so it looks more like what I expect. So the first part of the experiment is going to be to calibrate the sensors. So you will go through a procedure of pushing the syringe in, and then you'll get a flow waveform. If you integrate that waveform in the area, there should be 3 litres of volume which is flowed in that time. And then you extract it back out again, you get another waveform. So you'll do that maybe 10 times, so perhaps 5 repeats of, so 1 in, 1 out, that's 2, and in and out again, that's 4, and so on until we do 10. Do that at different speeds, so we can do a slow flow speed, we can do some fast ones, and we try and get a range of different flow values. Then in the lab manual you have a description of the second part of the experiment, which involves removing the pneumatac from a syringe, and we replace, it's in a sterile casing, or sterile but at least clean. It's a gauze or a filter and mouthpiece, so you can place that on to here, and we'll blow through it and do a forced respiratory maneuver, and you can look at measure lung function that way. Okay.